So
So how was your day, man?
I was
Your day?
boring
Boring?
any other day,
Yeah.
but I had some fun trading Bitcoin.
Made money?
Bit,
It went up today, eh?
yeah, it's been going up, but now it seems like it's retracing.
But it broke the resistance level, right? It was at 6, no?
Yeah, actually went as low as 5.6 and then went as high as 6.6. But yeah, not really, man. Like it's with the current situation, I wouldn't say it's gonna go up. But yeah, maybe we can have a good introduction. So like, why do we discuss Bitcoin together? Because we basically met back in 2015, 16. What was it? Something like that.
16. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
we actually like I used to. I just started to get into Bitcoin, and I really bothered Bacha, and he didn't really want to get into Bitcoin, and at some point actually managed to make him invest. uh, while I was showing off my profits, he was like, "Oh man, maybe I should get into this." So eventually, the guy started getting into it and went on to discuss crypto with like the Bank of Jordan, and it's like,
I was a speaker in the city hall in Jordan, and they were having a conversation about Bitcoin, and the central bank was involved, and it got my attention, man. That like compared to you, my knowledge in cryptocurrencies is kind of limited. Yet in Jordan, I made it to be a public speaker. I don't know how things going with you. You've been in this for what now, 3 4 years. How is crypto in Italy? Like, is it big? How is it?
I would say Italians in general are rather interested by Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. By many inherent features, our country is not really the most innovative place in the world. I mean, that's kind of obvious to say. We're kind of we're improving. So like we're seeing many entrepreneurs trying to start innovative companies, and in the blockchain sector, we actually have lots of small realities. Like one of the most important ones, I would say, is the blockchain education network. They kind of started grinding really hard, like back in 2013, 14, when no one was really interested. And I think this actually led to a rather good growth of the sector. We have some companies, not many. An interesting news maybe can be that recently an Italian bank that has actually over 1 million customers, they introduced a Bitcoin wallet in their app. So this kind of shows that incumbents are also getting interested. They realize.
How is the Bitcoin wallet, man? How is it? So you can
Sorry,
have your. How is the Bitcoin wallet integrated with the bank?
basically they have an app, and within the wallet, within the app, you have a Bitcoin wallet, who's been built by Conio, which is actually an Italian company that builds wallets, among other things.
So you can have your saving accounts in euro, dollar, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it's kind of different. So since it's not the same thing, but they integrated the Conio Bitcoin wallet within their app, so people can actually buy Bitcoin from there, I guess.
Okay, I got you. Just for people, man, who aren't really much into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, can you give us a brief on what is Bitcoin, what is crypto, what's blockchain, like in 2 minutes, maybe?
Okay, yeah, that's kind of hard in 2 minutes. Well, I think the blockchain has been one of the most hyped words in the last 5 years, I would say. Rising and rising, also mainly due to the skyrocketing price of Bitcoin. And many people got involved in the sector because of profits, mainly. They see this Bitcoin thing as the change of the world, and so and so. And I think there's lots of misalignment between what really Bitcoin is, the whole blockchain thing, and what people think. So maybe we can go a bit back, precisely in 2009, where the situation was pretty much fucked up. like kind of like right now.
Like that, man.
So 2008 financial crisis, and Bitcoin was actually, the white paper was released in 2009, and it wanted to be a peer-to-peer mean to transfer money among peers. So with no intermediaries, no banks, and without the use of the centralized system we have right now. What is the issue with centralized systems? It's actually trust. You need to trust them, because like once in a while, I mean, me and Basha would just exchange money. I would buy his stuff, meet him, give him the cash. He would give me his cow, or maybe a coffee at Locals, and we will both be happy. But what happens if me and Basha are not in the same place anymore? Then I can't trust the guy, because Basha, you know Basha, right? Yes. And maybe it doesn't, I can't trust him. So we both rely on a bank that actually externalizes our trust. And this is very scary. I mean, that's what we do every day in Facebook when we give our data to them and so and so. But it's kind of scary in times of crisis, because if system is centralized, it has only one point of failure. And we've seen many times the way banks and governments behave. It's not really ideal. And Bitcoin was born actually to solve the need for central parties and to allow people to transfer money by themselves. It is built on a blockchain, which is a distributed network of peer-to-peer, which is peer-to-peer. It's open, it's borderless, it's uncensorable. Sorry, and it doesn't have a centralized party. So, like the interesting point about Bitcoin is that it's not only about tech, like many people think about tech, but it's also about philosophy, economics, game theory. So it actually includes lots of interesting parts.
But Van, if we're to take some main points and focus on them, as far as I know, man, for any currency for anything to function as a currency, we need that thing to be a unit of. It gotta be a medium of exchange, a unit of divide, right? Right. And what's the third one?
Store of value.
Store of value. So Bitcoin, in terms of unit of divide, it's numbers. We can divide it. In terms of store of value, what do you think, man? Is it an ideal store of value or not?
Store of value. I think yes. I mean, we have to go back. So we're still talking about something which is always can be improved and is improving. So we're talking about a monetary system which is only 10 years old, with all that comes with it, like the innovative ideas and everything that run out. Maybe they sound weird, but maybe in the future that will be normal. Of course, right now, like many are saying, Bitcoin goes down with other stocks and so on. So it's kind of correlated with the market. I think it's very hard not to be correlated with the market in these times. Because I mean, we've seen also during the last years, companies getting involved with Bitcoin and so on. And many huge big corporate investors actually also are in Bitcoin. And
so you think people are withdrawing money from Bitcoin now so they can invest in other stuff?
I think it's kind of the same example I did. I mean, right now it's people are flying to cash. So everyone is going into cash. It's a very, very bad period financially. It wouldn't be wise to leave your savings in Bitcoin at the moment. I mean, if I had to tell my dad, you know, like I would never advise him to take that risk. Maybe, you know, cash right now it's a safer asset, of course.
So we kind of agree that cash is king in terms of crisis. But if I have excess cash, do you think it's good to have a small amount at least of my investment portfolio in Bitcoin, since we are in a bear market?
I would say yes in terms of investment, but I would also say generally, like, I mean, everyone in the world should have at least 0.00 something Bitcoin. I think this is like, it sounds strange when I tell my friends, guys, you should buy Bitcoin. They go like, yeah, man, but when a Bitcoin is $6,000, it's very expensive. Can't really afford that. But you can buy it 0.002. And if you actually think, I think it's like, so there's 21 million Bitcoin all in circulation. And the Bitcoin divided by population, I think it gives you an average of, I think it's 0.00 something, which is actually only 28 euros each one. So if you have 28 euros in Bitcoin, you actually have the average divided by the population. And world is changing, money is already digital. I see it as a no-brainer to actually get some of that. What do you think, Chagos? Like you have Bitcoin, right? So like, why do you have Bitcoin? Like, what do you think of it? Why do you still hold it? And did you actually ever use Bitcoin? Did you withdraw, spend your money?
So man, actually, I like the starting point was I joined Bitcoin for the sake of profit. I used to trade it as a commodity, but then with time, I got more into the philosophy of it, and I started doing my own reading into economics and how money works and stuff. And then I became a believer in the philosophy of Bitcoin, of decentralized currency without the use or a need for a central bank. At that time, when it became emotional and I really loved Bitcoin, I hold it and I stopped trading and I just kept it for time. And eventually that wasn't financially wise decision because Bitcoin lost values like 2 years ago, to early 2018, I guess, started to lose value. But back to the point, man, when I told you that it's unit of divide, store of value, and a medium of exchange. That last one, man, is what I paused on, and I'm still pausing on now. I don't think we're using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange yet. So the thing is, I have Bitcoin. Have I purchased stuff with Bitcoin? I don't think so, man. I don't think I've used Bitcoin for a transaction. You know, all I have to do is you always have to transfer it back to dollar or euro, and then you buy your stuff with the medium of exchange that is USD or euro. To me, like after a couple of years being in Bitcoin, I think so far it's not acting as a currency; it's acting as a commodity, which is sad. And since it's a commodity, it's in the market, it's tradable, big institutional investors are getting into it. And because the market size, the market capitalization of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is very small, the values keep on changing. You know, it's like when you compare Bitcoin to the American economy or the US dollar or euro or whatever, Bitcoin is like a small boat in the ocean. So any small wave will flip that boat, you know, unlike the huge market capitalization of the USD. Like, what is the total market capitalization now of Bitcoin? 150 million?
Maybe something like that.
Yeah. Not much, man. Not much. 150 billion, right?
Well, going back to your point, I think, and going back to the very reason why Bitcoin was created. So it never wished to become an alternative to the current financial system, right? Like Bitcoin doesn't want to replace the dollar or the euro and wants you to buy everything in Bitcoin. The whole idea is that you're free to choose whether you want to purchase stuff or you want to have your money and go through banks and financial intermediaries or in the normal system, or having an alternative where you can actually use your money and spend your money in a decentralized way, where you have more, you're protected, your privacy is protected, your data is protected, and so on. So, I mean, you do have that choice, and that's the important part. If you want it, you could easily buy stuff in Bitcoin. So I see Mohammed here says, I bought a lot of PC games with Bitcoin. I bought a lot of stuff with Bitcoin, actually.
Very expensive in hindsight, man. This is the point. See, the thing is, like if I have a business and I sell stuff in Bitcoin, and I do have a business, like my pricing is Jordanian dinar. Let's say 3 Jordanian dinars for a cup of coffee. If you want to have a Bitcoin pricing, chances are I'll change the price in Bitcoin to meet the current price of dinar. We're not at the level where we list our prices in Bitcoin yet, you know? So it's not acting, again, man, it's not acting as you don't really have a choice. I disagree with this. Like you said, you have a choice to use dollar or to use Bitcoin.
But is this a problem? Like, is this Bitcoin's problem? Or is this a normal problem that comes with adopting innovations? I mean, like in some places in Italy, you cannot even use your credit card. So is this like the dollar's problem, or like it just takes time for people to actually get to innovation? Like I used to work for a company in Italy where they actually allow merchants to accept Bitcoin for payments, and it's pretty much straightforward. They can decide whether they get to keep their Bitcoin or not. So it all everything comes to the whether like merchants start adopting it, and if they do, you do have a choice whether you want to use Bitcoin or not. And I think that's what
You do
matters.
have a choice to use Bitcoin or not, but then the pricing of a product, it's not measured in Bitcoin, it's measured in fiat currencies and its equivalent value of Bitcoin.
And so
You get my point? And like my put it this way, in other words, like Bitcoin was meant to replace central banks, have a decentralized network.
no, never want to replace, just to offer an alternative.
What is the difference between offering an alternative and replace?
No one wants to replace anything. Like everything is about freedom of individuals. So if you're free to choose, you should have the alternative of choosing a distributed network and be free to care about your privacy. And maybe you don't want everyone to know what you're buying, not because you're buying weird stuff, just because why do you care what I'm buying? You know, like society is getting increasing control of individuals, surveillance systems, and I think it kind of makes sense to lean towards a system that actually protects some of these things that we're slowly seeing kind of slipping away. No? What's your take on it? I mean, we have a shy crowd tonight, not many questions, huh?
So man, in theory, let's say I produce clothing, you know, and you have a flight company. Okay, you have an airline. I produce T-shirts. If both of us, and we have a bigger network of people, and all of us, we agreed we don't want to use dollar, we don't want to use euro, we want to use our own currency. I think we can come up with our own crypto. Let's say it's Bitcoin or another cryptocurrencies that is decentralized that we can make, and we start listing our prices in our own currency. Okay, and so the price. Let's say we call the coin Francesco coin, and the price of a T-shirt is 2 Francescos. So this is what you have to pay. You pay 2 Francescos. But the moment this coin that we have entered the market of Francesco coin, the value of it will start fluctuations. So maybe the 2 Francesco coins, which we thought it's fair for a price of T-shirt, considering that the airline is 100, let's say, it doesn't make any sense with time. If a cryptocurrencies enter the market, because if it entered the market, man, it became another commodity, and I don't think it's big enough to sustain the market. So that's my take on. I think if we're to do a successful cryptocurrency that will act as a medium of exchange, it shouldn't be available for trading.
Well, I mean, you mean you shouldn't attach monetary value to it, or should it have a fixed monetary value? Because then you have stable coins, for example.
Then what is value? What is value, man? What is value? I mean, at the end of the day,
nothing really.
Does gold have an intrinsic value? Does dollar have an intrinsic value? Does Bitcoin have intrinsic value? Value, like what is currency, man? It's just society saying that we choose whatever it is to be a currency.
So next question.
Why you pause, man?
Because I don't know, man. I don't know. It's too philosophical. Like I think it's more practical. It just takes some time. I mean, I can bet in 10 years more people will use Bitcoin, more people will accept Bitcoin, and more people will be free to decide whether they can actually use Bitcoin. So just come with time, man.
Just come with time.
No?
BTC can process 3 to 5 transactions per second. The BTC network can scale to cover microtransactions. That's why it's currently used as a store of value.
To this point, basically, like the whole idea is to have a basic layer, which is Bitcoin main chain, that actually offers security, which is the highest, I would say, value proposition with privacy protection of Bitcoin and decentralization. And then on top of it, you can use second layers such as Lightning, for example, or I don't know, some kind of applications built on it that actually allows microtransactions. This actually links to the point of before, yeah, exactly, off-chain solutions. But yet, like it is wrong to see Bitcoin as a fixed thing, and also like it's constantly evolving and developments are coming. So it's not like you have a fixed technology; it's actually changing. And also, like as Gabriel is mentioning, like for example with SegWit, which is something that was developed, I think, a couple of years ago. It's already 14. So it will come with time.
But man, who's innovating on the Bitcoin network, since it is decentralized, nobody owns it? Like, who's responsible for the innovation that you're talking about?
There actually are a number of developers committed to the project in a very decentralized way. And I mean, all decisions are discussed collectively. And you have, for example, proposals from improvements, which are called BIP, Bitcoin Improvement Proposals, which is basically a developer comes up with something, and then the community decides whether it's useful for the network or not. And this actually all follows the decentralization like idea of it. And it's not only like developers, because in the end, like the improvements, then they're gonna have it on the client, right? And then in the end, it's users who also decide what they want to use. So it's all revolves around trying to be as decentralized as possible and constantly improving.
But what do you think about other blockchains, other cryptocurrencies, like Ethereum when it came, or Cardano, man, when it came and this is the next generation of cryptocurrencies, and they solved the whole limited transaction per second that Bitcoin does. Do you think they have a chance or not really?
It depends on the use case, right? I mean, I don't fully disagree that there's some use cases where you might want to have a more flexible programming language, such as Ethereum Solidity, or you might want to, I don't know, what else, have a cryptocurrency paying for the advertisement you're seeing in your browser. I think that's cool stuff, you know? There's room for innovation. I think you have to separate kind of the two big categories, which is actually on the one hand you have Bitcoin, and on the one other hand you have all other blockchains.
So what do you think about Ethereum?
What do I think about Ethereum? Now, especially these projects are moving away from the Ethereum network. Actually, recently, I think it was R3 or Corda, please, Gabriele, correct me if I'm wrong, that they moved to the Ethereum Enterprise Network. So it's a version of Ethereum it's actually a kind of a private Ethereum chain. I don't think projects are moving away from Ethereum. I think Ethereum actually opens interesting possibilities for the decentralized finance, for example. So you have MakerDAO or other solutions that are very interesting. So like, yeah, for example, Gabriele mentions, so also the idea is that basically you kind of could use and think of Bitcoin as a settlement layer, which is
as what?
Sorry?
As what?
As a settlement layer for transactions, it's like 100% secure, reliable, and decentralized, and basically you can actually build stuff on top of it. So if we like it's all uncertain right now, but I think it's wrong to see like Bitcoin as slow and other things as better, because I think like Bitcoin has like what most other blockchains lack, which is a blockchain that's completely trustless, and very, very secure. And this could actually be used as the basis for a whole new financial world, kind of. So, like, I don't know, that's room for. I think what's really interesting is that in the end, all of these projects are challenging the old ways of doing stuff, are challenging status quo, are pushing banks, incumbents to improve, and that hopefully soon we're gonna see a really interesting shift in. Many things we've taken for granted, such as maybe, for instance, individual responsibility about our money. So another interesting thing about Bitcoin is that you really own your money. So nowadays, your money is in a bank. It doesn't really matter whether you forget your credit card PIN. You just go there. They're gonna give you another one. With Bitcoin, if you have a solution where you have your private key, you actually have full control over your fund. So if you lose your private key, then you lose your money. There's no one that actually allows you to click on forgot your password and sends you a password. So this also makes you question individual responsibility and makes you a little bit more involved in the way you manage your money. And I think it's interesting from also like a philosophical point of view.
I don't know, man. I had my own difficulties with Bitcoin. I mean, remember when we were in Kuala Lumpur and I lost my phone, and then I had trouble retrieving the accounts. It took me a month to do the verifications to get back my accounts, and then
maybe it's nice to share. So the whole problem is that Basha's beard was too long. Basically, in the verification picture, so it took him like a week to do that.
It's actually a true story, man. The phone couldn't verify my face due to the beard. So it took me a while to get back my accounts, you know? Stupid technology issues. But after that, man, when I lost access to my Dutch bank account, which got most of my trading accounts linked to the Dutch bank account, I find it trouble to purchase stuff with Bitcoin because, okay, I have assets, I have commodities, I have financial assets. This is how I saw it, but I couldn't access it easily. I mean, it took a while, man. I had to transfer it to you, and then you had to transfer it to the bank, and then you still have the money, you know? I trust you. You have my Bitcoin because you have Italian bank account linked to it that accepts Bitcoin. Unlike in Jordan, where the government have the regulation that you're not allowed to...
it's not really like that, though. It's not really that my Italian bank account accepts Bitcoin. So, like, what happens is the exchange just sends me a normal bank transfer to my account if I withdraw.
What?
Like my Italian bank account doesn't know anything about Bitcoin stuff. It's just when I withdraw money from the exchange, it actually sends me a bank transfer.
I didn't have that option. I didn't have the option to withdraw money from my bank account, from my crypto account. And this is why, man, I started questioning the use of Bitcoin as a currency.
I mean, I will go back to the same thing. Is it Bitcoin problem? Is it acceptance?
I think, man, the market sucked Bitcoin in. Like Bitcoin, man, the Genesis block, what was written on it? Government at the verge of another bailout.
Another bailout.
Right? That was that was written in the first block of the blockchain of Bitcoin. So it kind of show you the philosophy of the creators of Bitcoin that this thing shouldn't happen. And we're providing a solution that people can use without the need for bailing out banks again. And I think governments already started bailing out big companies. I saw a video for Bernie Sanders, man, recently saying that not only banks, but big corporations are already asking government for bailout already. 10 years after, 12 years after Bitcoin, we're in another crisis. Same thing is going all over again. And I don't know, man, I think the creator of Bitcoin is disappointed.
I don't know. I wouldn't say so. I think it's pretty much happy. I think it would be sad that many people don't really understand the whole purpose of Bitcoin. I mean, even if you nowadays have futures or Bitcoin is on the market, as you say, it doesn't really compromise itself, the value proposition or the network. So that's what matters in the end. I mean,
It's true, man. I think like you're how to say it, like the most important value of Bitcoin is allowing us to have our own currency that is not controlled by any central entity. That's
mhm,
the main purpose of it.
you have it.
We got sucked by the market, man. We had to find ways to let Bitcoin work in the market, so we started focusing on the trust issues, on the decentralization values. But those aren't the main value proposition of Bitcoin. The main value proposition of Bitcoin is providing an alternative financial system, which didn't do yet.
But it does. Like inherently it does. I mean, again, what you're saying is that it's still not widespreadly adopted, and that I mean, nowadays you cannot really argue that it is. But once again, the fundamental values of Bitcoins are not compromised, and eventually it will be widely adopted, or even if it's not, man. Uh, Once again, I can use it. If you accept it, I can pay with Bitcoin to you.
So you think it's a choice for the people to make to use Bitcoin or not?
Yeah, 100%. It's all about freedom.
Which actually, man, happened in Venezuela a couple of years ago when the currency was in a crisis. Bitcoin was more stable, so people were doing more transaction in Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Do you think Bitcoin will be used as a kind of a safe haven one way or the other, weirdly enough, after all the fluctuation in its market soon? Because soon, we don't know what will happen soon, man. But everybody, there is a chance for a currency collapse soon, right? Do you think it's a good opportunity for Bitcoin to position itself as an alternative for merchants to use?
So so what you also saying is that basically I mean, yeah, we could argue that Corona is kind of a trigger event that highlights the issue of this system and hopefully contributes to changing it. I
I
think that
love this comment, man.
yeah, man. So like the example of Venezuela, for example, I mean, you live in Jordan, I live in Italy. Our currency is pretty much a good one. We're happy with it, so we don't really have a need to have an alternative. And even if we wanted, if Bitcoin wasn't there, we didn't have any alternative. So, for example, imagine people in Venezuela, man. I mean, Bitcoin is saving their life. The currency of Venezuela suffered the hyperinflation, and those who were lucky enough to know about Bitcoin actually were able to put their money there. So that's actually the whole point of it, you know, being an alternative. And actually, if you really need it and you have it, I think it's a very nice value proposition.
Ahwal man, he's a financial analyst as well. But I mean, reply back to this, Mahmoud. What do you think about the SP 500 and all the major indices dropping 35% in value? What people think, yeah, man, it's normal. It's just Corona, or it will catch up again. You'll never know if it'll fall more or not. Or I don't know, man. I don't know. Like past 2 days, if you had money in Bitcoin, chances are you made money. If you had money in DAX, you lost money. So, and the volatility again, it's the small chip thing. It's due to the small market capitalization of Bitcoin. But
Yeah,
if a major currency fall and lots of people start piling up Bitcoin, there will be a higher market capitalization. But then again, man, we're in a market. We're in a market. If you're in a market and the market capitalization is under $1 trillion, you don't have a stable currency. So one way or the other, it is volatile. So it should be out of the market. We should use it as a medium of exchange. We should put limit on purchasing Bitcoins, man. or Bitcoin derivatives or leverages on it or whatever it is.
I think also like a rational investor wouldn't put his money in BTC. I don't know, because it depends on what's your perspective, right? If you have a long-term perspective, and if you want to invest something that actually will grow in the long term, well, Bitcoin is probably the way to go, or gold. But let's say like we could always mine gold on asteroids with like rocket ships. So from the moment we do that, gold is useless. Like in the long term, I would see Bitcoin as a really, really safe asset. Haven't considering also like general trend of our society going towards digital money and digitalization and robots and like this type of things.
My current portfolio of investment, actually, my current portfolio is 30% cash, 40% gold, 30% Bitcoin, and 10% in the bank. I don't have any stocks at the moment, man. I'm not an expert in trading in bear markets, so I realized I should be out. I wanted to short, but I was in Nepal without a phone, so I didn't short before the crisis, and then I felt, I need to do lots of readings before I know if I should short now or not.
Did you read?
Not really, man. Not really. I decided not to get into the market. I decided not to get into the stock market. The thing is, man, I wrote an article last year how to prepare for a financial crisis. And now with hindsight, after like 2 weeks, I realized if I followed my own advice, if I had a phone, man, when I was in Nepal, I don't know, I would have made money. But the good thing is, I don't know, it was a nice trip. You should try it, man. Traveling without a phone, it's entertaining. You really feel disconnected from the world.
Did you lose your phone, or was it just on purpose?
No, I made the conscious decision to leave my home back at Jordan, man. And then it was surprising when I arrived. Actually, I arrived to Jordan Sunday, and then Monday there was quarantine, mandatory quarantine for anyone entering the country. I got lucky, and then the whole Corona shit exploded.
Yeah, you got back just in time, huh?
Yeah, I got back just in time. I think it shouldn't matter. I think if you're looking into long term, you should put at least a 10% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, because you'll never know. You'll never know, man. Have part of your portfolio in Bitcoin.
In 10 years, you'll give us you'll offer us a nice dinner.
Yeah. So the same reason could be applied to BTC. Furthermore, it overperformed also SP500, and it is best bull run of the history 2009 to 2020. It's true, but I think what's going on in Bitcoin is major, like compare a major stock for 100 years. This is what happened in Bitcoin within 5 years. So the same economical cycle is going on, going up, bubble burst, but instead of taking 100 years, it's taken 5-6 years. Wow. I mean, judging from the very limited examples that happened in the past couple of years, people tend to use Bitcoin when the currency collapse. And in terms of a financial crisis, there is always a risk of a currency collapse. Especially, man, this time, we didn't dig to the important question of what's going on now. The Federal Reserve reduced interest rate to 0, man. Last time they did this was the Great Depression era, man, 1929. So we're witnessing the collapse of the monetary policy as we know it. This is what I think. This is why Trump started doing fiscal policies, started trade wars with people. Monetary policy doesn't work anymore. They all talk about the bubble of everything, and I think the bubble of everything is the bubble of the dollar. Now, for the first time in 30 years, we have another major power that is, I don't know, causing a threat to the American empire, which is China. In this crisis, they are performing very well. I don't know, man. We should look more into what the Chinese are doing. If I don't know how to purchase yuan, but I really do want to purchase yuan. I have trust in the Chinese government, and they control their currency. It's not affected by the market. So I don't know, man. I'd love to have a small percentage of my portfolio in yuan.
So I don't know. I would start with with the comment. So basically, I mean, it's been 10 years that people are saying, yeah, Bitcoin is not worth investing. It's really volatile. Yet 10 years ago, it was worth 1 cent. Right now, it's $600,000, touched 20K. I mean, all of these people were basically proved wrong by what happened. Regarding the economy in general, I think it's very hard to use monetary policies where basically now we have definitely, I mean, basically money is useless and always has been, but like not so much as nowadays. I mean, like look at what happened recently. They basically unleashed unlimited quantitative easing. They reduced bank reserves to basically zero. They injected 700 billions in the economy, yet all of this didn't really matter, and yet the market went down. And I think the main issue is that all of this policy basically they can work on, I mean, temporary stimulus and providing some liquidity to stock market and like allowing companies to pay debt. But then the real issue is on first of all, I mean, the general infrastructure of our society or our monetary system. And secondly, I mean, policies should be more directed towards helping the real economy and stimulating people. I mean, some interesting ideas are QE for people, helicopter.
QE, wait, man. QE, quantum easing. I think we need to understand what quantum easing means, because it's a fancy word. It's
Exactly.
a fancy word, and most people don't get it. Quantum easing. And I guess the best way to do this is to explain how the fractional reserve debt-based monetary system work, whereby when the central bank when the banks want to print money, let's not get into the details of central bank or whatever, money is only printed when there is debt. And the reason for this is to guarantee that there will be no inflation in the market. So they know where the money is going. They know that the prices of other commodities will stay the same. So there is debt being there, hence credit economy. Credit economy, the economy that we live in. And what controls this flow is the interest rate that the Fed's put. And now it's reduced it down to zero. Last time in 2008, they put it down to 0.25. And this didn't work enough, so they started quantum easing. And quantum easing is literally printing money out of thin air without debt. So they take the money and they put it where they need it, like literally out of thin air. And I think, man, I've done lots of reading into this, and the justification of why you do quantum easing for big banks and big corporations is the simplicity of it. So here's the economy. There is some people on the top of that pyramid, major companies and major banks.
Trickle down.
If you print money and you give it to those people, it's easy to manage. It's easy to manage, and it's easy to know who do you want to let them fall and who not. It's the private party up there we don't know about, but it's easy to control who will get and who not. But then if you give all the money to the people, you don't know how the people will spend the money on. So you're risking the collapse of the economy. So the only way to save economy is to bail out the big companies, I think.
Well, I think
As you know it.
it's more of like, let's say if they would do helicopter money for people, then people would be like, what, guys, seriously? Like, you could have given me money this whole time and you never gave me anything. I want my freaking money. Like, give me more. Like that's the whole point of it. They can't really afford to do that. Otherwise, like everyone will kind of realize that the old system we have nowadays is bullshit, and probably maybe we'll have a revolution or something of this sort.
I remembered, man, like in history, ever heard of the Jubilee year, the year of Jubilee?
The Vatican thingy?
Kind of Jewish thing, man. So like every 50 years or so, they realize that due to the nature of interest and usury, society will be divided into two classes, a class of debtors and a class of creditors. So, and this will rise social tension, and the society will be on the verge of collapse. So what they do historically is every 50 years they cancel out everyone's debt and they start over from zero. And that was been going on like thousands of years ago. And then if you read about the long-term and short-term debt cycle, it's kind of a consensus that the long-term debt cycle lasts between 70 and 100 years, which is in line of what they were doing with the Jubilee year. But now we're at the end of it. I think this is the end of the long-term debt cycle. So it will be bigger than the 2008, which was just a short-term debt cycle.
It's already bigger.
Yeah, it was managed by 700 billion, right? 700 billion, quantum easing.
900.
And dropping interest rates to 0.25. The Fed's already printed 1.5 trillion, right, in one day, and they added more. And they've been doing QE actually for the past year, man, sneakily printing money. They don't want to share this information because society will just rage. And I think the only way the economy is working is due to the fact that the majority of people don't know how economy works.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I'm serious, because if we realize how economy works, we can have our own currency, man. We can agree to do our own currency.
Or we can use Bitcoin.
Exactly. Well, we should take it out of the market, not to be manipulated. It's either the end of the world or the end of capitalism, man. Or another capitalism with China in its center. Or World War III. I don't see any other options.
So we have these 4 options. Which one would you go for?
Communist revolution, of course.
Of course. How would we do it?
We have blockchain, man, now. We have decentralization to do a communist revolution, man. We can do our own currency now. We have the technology to make it happen. Man.
But in practice,
that's a long journey, man. I have some thoughts, man.
Ideally, utopically, how would you do it? What would be your dreamland, your communist dreamland?
I think, man, we should move back to small communities. I need to bring a charger to the laptop. But I've been reading a book for what's his name, Christopher Ryan. It's Civilized to Death, and the guy mentioned something that the grasshopper.
What's a book?
The species, the grasshopper, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, in normal days it lives a nice life, just jumping in grass and stuff. But then when there's an event, shortage of food, it triggers a different path of its own evolution. So the same species will become swarms of what is the word of it in English? Like this green brown things that eat everything, and they fly in thousands. I forget the name. Locust. Yes. So it's the same species, man. And I do feel this is us, the humans. If we live in small communities, we can collaborate, we can live in peace with each other. The moment we decided to move to cities, everything got fucking ruined, man. We started to hate each other, lose trust. We need governance, we need centralization. I don't think we can live in a decentralized big cities. So in order to live a decentralized world, we should have a reversed urban immigration. So if you're talking about a utopian system, I would say point number 1, man, move back to the villages, become more sustainable, seize the means of production, bro. We gotta do this shit. We gotta own it collectively.
I actually agree, man, that the model should be going back to small communities. And an interesting example is that of Switzerland, actually, because Switzerland has 4 cantons, and the democracy is very representative. So you elect people that actually come from your local neighborhood, and then they actually get to go to the Swiss parliament. And therefore, they have skin in the game and bear responsibility to those who elected them. And also
that's because it's a Switzerland, man. It's the country of banks, you know. It's the country where the government have very limited power, you know. So it's like, yeah, you can control some aspect of Switzerland, you know, in the nicest way possible, as long as there are some stuff that are untouched.
It is, but politically, like I think it would be really a nice revolution. I mean, of course, it's not going to be your communist dreamland, but it's a doable political alternative that would actually lean much more towards progressive democracy and kind of not socialism, but actually like communitivism, no?
Communitism. Yeah, I think communitism is the way to go, man.
Communitism.
To do this, man, to do the transition between a capitalist society to a communistic one, we need capital. See, we live in a capitalist society, and that's the paradox. You know, we need money.
Have to play the game, man. You have to play the game.
You have to play the game, man. I think I've seen a post recently that we should have, like, instead of allowing people to be billionaires, if you reach 900 millions 99, we'll just give you a certificate that you won capitalism, and we'll name Dog Park after you, and that's it, man. You know?
Yeah, I think so. There should be a cap.
A cap to it. I think, man, the way to go is for petite bourgeois like us, people having small businesses, you know, to take on the side of the proletariat this time, unlike previous historical examples.
I'm very much a proletarian, so.
I have a business, man, which put me in a major conflict. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the capitalist in this. You know, and I think this happens because people don't realize the difference between a true bourgeois and a petit, as they say in France.
Self-made. Do you try to adopt some communist stuff in your the way you manage your company?
So I remember, man, this example when I went to the staff and I told them I want to share part of the profit with you. And probably everyone disagreed and everybody was, give me a raise in salary. And then I realized the problem is massive, man, where I'm the boss and I'm telling people take a percentage of the profit and they disagree and they want to raise in their salaries. But I realized that that's not the right mentality of people to have, you know? But now with the current staff, man, with the current staff that we have, I think we can do this, especially with the crisis that we're in, man. With the crisis that we're in, we should get into a more fair model. I mean, man, you saw my master thesis, like in Holland, how to build a communist business. This is literally what I wrote a master thesis in. Yeah, I need money, man. I need money to experiment.
What was your thesis about?
How to build a communist business.
Yeah,
I'm not explaining the entire thesis now, man. This is an entire 1 hour. But yeah, I got a 9 on my defense, man, which was great.
The whole point is, why would someone do like you and redistribute profits?
I think, man, at some point in life, we realize that money is important to a certain degree, but after that, it doesn't bring you more, value, you know, more happiness. And you realize happiness comes from, coming up with ideas, sharing, spending money on people. Like, this is where true happiness comes. This is why I want to do it. At the end of the day, I have enough money to live, you know, if I change my business model, if I share part of the profit with the staff.
I see the beauty of it. It's very hard to actually instill this kind of mentality for many people. And also, I don't think that it's like people are evil and don't want to do that. It's just very hard.
Ahwal asking a very important question. And I think this is due to the nature of the capitalist society that we live in. But what I'm trying to do is to find a way of a transition from a capitalist society to a communist one. And having studied in the US, man, I think like all your knowledge is very, neoliberal one way or the other. Correct me if I'm wrong, man. You know, it's just, man, they teach us economics as this is the one only true way of doing economics. Let's see if they change, man, the curriculum after the crisis that will happen now or not. Or like 10 years ago when they put the chairman of the Federal Reserves as the dean of economics in Harvard, and this is the best universities you graduate in, man.
Anyhow,
I think we should go back to the roots of Marx. Das Kapital mainly, man. Not the Communist Manifesto, but Das Kapital, the critique of capitalist mode of production. Understand it well, and then try to come up with a neo-Marxist way of running a society that will utilize technologies such as blockchain. I think this is the way to go.
ideally and theoretically, but still, practically.
No, we're getting there now. We're getting there. I mean, let's wait, like literally 1 week. Let's wait 1 week on the US and see the social divide that will happen, man. You already see it with the Trump supporter and Bernie supporter. It will be a total catastrophe, I would say.
It will probably, but still, like, how could this push to like a resort into neo-communism, as you argue?
Because you'll find yourself locked in a position where you'll either be in countries fighting each other's, and you realize that I don't really have that sense of patriotism to defend the US, or you find yourself living in a global society that's led by the Chinese, or divided between the China and the US. In all cases, your options aren't really great, So I think reaching this point, you might as well think, fuck it, let's try something else. But it's not easy, man. We need to have a collectivist effort into trying to find an alternative economical model. It's not a one-man show. And this is why they should teach Marxism in school, the same way they do it in Vietnam, man.
But I think no one has a real interest in this. I mean, the whole structures of power depend on the way the world it's built today. So it's kind of naive to think that if we have a crisis, then everyone will just realize this. Because I mean, you still have the same people on top of governments, right? You'll still have the same class in power. So I think it's a bit naive to believe this change, right?
It's naive, man. It's not naive. It's a lengthy process, but we gotta start somewhere, And this is why we should move into communities. Like, communities is the way to go, man. Communities that support each other's, Like, this is the way to go if we're to achieve something. And we have all the reasons in the world now, man, to do this. We gotta be more self-sustainable. We gotta reduce carbon emissions, man. We're killing the planet. I think, man, the indefinite, the need for indefinite growth in capitalism is destroying our planet. Look at those 2 weeks, man. The earth is taking a break.
Definitely. Yeah, it makes you reflect also. Like, I hope it makes us question lots of fundamental things we do wrong currently. I mean, generally hope so, but I mean, what history tells us is that unfortunately, it doesn't really happen. I mean, I don't want to sound delusional. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but still, for all that I wish that would be the way we go, I don't see it really.
I think we should wait for it, man. Wait for the next trigger of this financial crisis that we're in, and let's see how people's responses is.
So we'll record this and go back in like 6 months. Hopefully, we won't be in quarantine.
I think, man. The level of awareness in the younger generation, man, is a bit relatively higher.
In some things.
In some things, fair.
They lack stuff we know about other stuff.
And it kind of makes sense. I don't know, man. Like at the era of our parents, they used to have a small. They used to have a job, an accountant, an engineer, whatever it is, and each one of them, man, were able to send us all to schools, buy a property. And then we're looking at our lives and we're making more than they do, but we cannot afford the same life, We're all in debt. And I think, man, we're blessed in Jordan, We're blessed in Jordan compared to countries such as the US. When you have a $50,000 student loan at 20. Man, a good friend of mine, he had a student loan of probably, I don't know, 200,000, quarter a million to study filmmaking in London. And eventually he got broke, and he found that the only way for him to pay back his student loan is to join the army. So now he joined the army just to pay off his loan. People are reaching to these desperate measures. I don't think, man, the world that we live in is functioning properly. And any alternative that will come up with now, even anarchy ban, it won't be much worse, you know? It's worth a try.
Anarchy?
Here's an interesting fact, Basha. Millennials in the US are socialists rather than capitalists. I believe economic shift will happen in the US within the next election, since millennials will be the biggest base to vote. I hope, man, coronavirus will bring more votes towards Bernie, who everybody voted against. And the word socialist is used as an insult in the US, man. You know, like, yeah, he's a commie, he's a socialist. And I don't think, man, people in the US understand what socialism is. Social democracy doesn't really work, man. Social democracy, like the Scandinavian version, isn't really socialism. It's just capitalism with a social flavor. It doesn't solve global issues. It only works in small, rich countries with minimal population. What do you think the next trigger might be, though? Francesco, take on this one.
Also, to the also the previous comment was quite interesting, because eventually, like, by this reasoning, Sanders should win. But what we've seen practically, I think, first of all, just because of the word, I think anything that argues that to be anyone that argues to be socialist or communist will be judged. So simply removing that word, I think, would bring many more votes. I think on one hand, we're seeing the importance of what Sanders advocates. On the other, he doesn't get votes. So
all the media is against him, man. You know, I really feel sorry for my fellow Americans for the quality of media that they have. You know, it's very hard to get outside of that bubble.
It's very hard, very, very hard, man.
It's very hard. You know,
that's why in the end, I don't know. I see Trump. If Sanders doesn't win, then they're stuck with Trump. I mean,
you're talking as if there will be an election. I think there's a good chance that they will postpone the election. They will cancel it. You know, in times of crisis, government can take severe measures. You know,
probably. I mean, when are they actually? In November?
It should be November, but the primaries are already being postponed, and we still don't know Biden or Bernie is gonna win. But this will be, I think, man. I think coming back to this, we should be watching American politics nowadays. I mean, it controls the world. The US controls the world, so we gotta see what the US.
It's like a TV series. It's like a TV series. It's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch, but now it's I don't know.
They're all actors in the end, right?
Yeah, a punchline will be coming soon, man.
What do you think the next trigger will be? I think we are seeing it right now. I mean, I think like right now we already are in a pretty very fucked up situation, worse than 2008, and that's gonna be a huge event in the history books. And I mean, no one knows what's gonna happen. But what we know is that it kind of just started, because also like economic consequences are only seen after 6 months to a year. So we don't really know. This is uncharted territory. But I see this as we already have seen
I think, man, there's two things that we should pay close eye on these days. One is the nature of relationship between the US and China. What is the measure that they are doing globally? Like, what's going on? You know, we should do more reading into this. Secondly, I think, man, now we're at risk of social order collapse more than the economy itself. If government decided to bail out big companies again while leaving lots of people unemployed without any universal income, we're in, man. We're in for a revolution, you know. Unfortunately, man, communism is so demonized, and we don't have a new version of it. You know, it's so outdated. So this is why we should look into these lines, man. We should go back to Marx, find a solution within Marx lines, man. I've always been seeing this.
I don't know. I think if you pretty much want to reflect on it, that's all of the necessary tools to actually change our society. It's just like how hard it is to introduce them. That's the thing. And usually trigger events, they're very useful because I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the shock doctrine of Naomi Klein. Well, basically, like if you have to introduce something, then you need a big shock to actually the situation is so bad that actually all measures introduced are kind of legit, and this can mean one of two things: either this actually means that society is going towards more surveillance and tighter control, more capitalism, because they need to reboost everything because we lost so much, or on the other hand, it kind of relaxes and goes towards different path. It's a nice window of opportunity.
I cannot stop thinking about all the comments. Man, I follow lots of American groups and pages on Facebook just to get an idea of the general public opinion there. And the most written comment that I've seen is, buy your gun, be prepared.
I mean, the question is, if you could buy a gun, would you?
Yeah, I can. We can in Jordan, and why not? I needed to protect me. I needed to protect my family. I keep my gun locked in a safe. What?
It kind of makes sense, no?
I think, man, bullets is a good investment. We should.
Yeah.
Bullets.
I agree.
Yeah, we should buy bullets. It will increase in value, man. I think we're drifting away from Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We've been talking for over an hour, so I guess party's over.
Yeah, I think it's fun to let conversation drive us, kind of.
Yeah, I think so as well, man. I enjoy it, man. It needs more thinking, though.
Next time, maybe we invite someone special.
Yeah, we should invite, man, more interesting people that older people who are experts in stuff.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Yeah, maybe I'll do one in Arabic. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, I propose Gabriele to do one in Italian.
Yeah. Why not, man? Let's spread this, man. Let's spread this decentralized podcast.
Yeah. Locals.
Ciao, bello.
Ciao, bra.
Ciao.